Greg Harris, and I'm coming to you from inside the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Gallery in Cleveland, Ohio. The 2023 nominees are Kate Bush, Sheryl Crow, Missy Elliott, Iron Maiden, Joy Division New Order, Cyndi Lauper, George Michael, Willie Nelson,
On the road again.
Rage Against the Machine, Soundgarden, The Spinners, A Tribe Called Quest, The White Stripes, and Warren Zevon. Congratulations to the 2023 nominees.
There he is, Jason Hanley.
Jamie, good morning. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you and see you great.
All
Jason,
right, perfect.
Jason, this is Christmas. I was thinking about it. This is turning into like a highlight of like the year of everything. It's fantastic.
It's awesome, man. It's great to see you again, too. And I know I was trying to remember, was it when we announced the inductees last year that you were here in Cleveland, actually?
Yes,
right?
that was in May. And then in LA, you were a busy
Yeah.
cat. So we were not
Right.
able to connect. But man, I mean, we gotta, we'll talk about LA later, but is it you as well, Jason, really quickly? It takes me like 4 days to come down from those induction ceremonies.
Totally. You need
Right?
a decompression after the just because there's so much good music and the connections. And there are times where I'm talking to people, I'm like, oh man, I forgot. Dave Grohl played the guitar solo with Lionel Richie. And you just forget these moments because they're so incredible and they come so fast and furious in a 4.5-hour show, right?
It is incredible. It's incredible, Jason, and you do such a great job. And we're gonna have to get you back here just to talk about other stuff, like the new mission statement of the museum and the expansion and all the great work you're doing, man, because there's a lot to talk about. But today, you're a busy guy. I can't imagine you're out. So let's get on with it. The 2023 nominees are out, Jason. Let's go through them really quickly. We got Kate Bush, we got Sheryl Crow, Missy Elliott, Iron Maiden, Joy Division / New Order. We got Cyndi Lauper, George Michael, Willie Nelson, Rage Against the Machine, Soundgarden, The Spinners, A Tribe Called Quest, Warren Zevon, and The White Stripes. So, I mean, what is general overview, Jason? What do you take from this?
What I take from it, it is really just such an amazingly diverse list. And I think, this is something you and I have even talked about in previous years, like as we get further into the 80s and the 90s, with artists being eligible, you're looking at all different types of rock and roll, all different sounds of it, from the heavy metal of Iron Maiden to the kind of new wave, and electronica of Joy Division New Order, the kind of singer-songwriter stuff, people like Sheryl Crow, who were big pop stars, or Cyndi Lauper. And it's exciting. I think you're getting a representation of all different things that people listen to. And I think it would be hard to find anybody who couldn't find a couple artists on this list that they didn't love, because it's just such a list that shows the diversity of rock and roll and all the different sounds that it has.
Absolutely, Jason. And, you guys just announced a new mission statement, and I think it connects with the new inductees. And it reads, and I quote, "Born from the collision of rhythm and blues, country and gospel, rock and roll is a spirit that is inclusive and ever-changing. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame celebrates the sound of youth culture and honors the artists whose music connect us all." So there is something here, Jason, and we, looking back a couple of years ago, we kind of saw it moving towards here. Rock and roll has become a spirit, right? It's become like a more than a sound in itself.
Yeah, and I think that's something that, if you think about that new mission statement, it both connects back to the past and says where the roots of rock and roll came from. We haven't forgotten about that. We haven't forgotten about, the British invasion and, Motown and all these great artists that people love, many of whom are already inducted. But it's this idea that as we've continued, you get this idea that it was Ice Cube when he got up and accepted for NWA. He talked about rock and roll as a spirit and an attitude, so that, hip hop came out of rock and roll, right? They were spinning, disco and funk records and soul records and rock records. Yeah. And as time goes on, people have done different things with that sound. And that's why I think often people are looking for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to be like just one thing, like just guitars, just, heavy metal, or just classic rock. It's not. It's all of these different sounds and styles. And it is about youth culture. And that doesn't mean it excludes me. My youth is probably past me at this point, but I am still, I think, youthful in my
You're more
listening.
youthful than anybody I know, Jason. Let me just put it, for the record.
Well, my wife has accused me of making my entire life just to stay a teenager, and get to listen to rock and roll and read comic books all day. But but it's this idea that rock and roll does have that, right? It almost is a fountain of youth in some way, because you can keep exploring new things. Or I love hearing brand new artists and what are they doing and how do they connect back. And I think that connection between the different generations of rock and roll is something that's become really important for us.
Absolutely. I agree with everything you said, Jason. Let's touch base on just a couple of the nominees here that are interesting tidbits. And by the way, just for my audience, a reminder, to be eligible for a nomination, an artist or band must have released his first commercial recording at least 25 years prior to the year up to 2023.
That's
8
right.
out of the 14 nominees are on the ballot for the first time. And fans around the world participate in the induction by casting a fan vote. Through April 28th, fans can vote online at vote.rockhall.com or in the museum in Cleveland, which is a must-see attraction. And the top 5 artists selected by the public comprise a fan vote, which is counted towards the final inductees.
That's right.
So let's talk about three. I want to talk about a few. Jason, let's start with the low-hanging fruit, but still great. Our own Nashville, Sheryl Crow, Nashville resident, 9 Grammys, 50 million albums sold, but also, on research really quickly this morning, a very good actress resume. Did you know that, NCIS, One Tree Hill, just like a really epic entertainer for decades now.
Yeah, when you look at her resume and you start to dig into it and you realize that before she even became a solo artist in the 90s, she was singing backup for everyone, including Michael Jackson and many, many other artists. So she cut her teeth on songwriting and singing backup for these other artists. And of course, as you mentioned, once she broke out as a big solo artist in the 90s, just hit after hit after hit. And I think she's a great example where sometimes if you're really successful and have a lot of top hit songs and win Grammys, people think of you as kind of a pop artist and maybe not being as worthy as somebody, who struggled in the basement to keep it going. But man, what a great songwriter she is, an incredible collaborator. She's worked with so many different other artists. You said even multi-talented, able to act and sing and songwrite and play instruments. I mean, I often am looking through credits of records that says, oh, Sheryl Crow's on here. Oh, and she played bass on this too, right?
Wow.
And you mentioned, that she's in Nashville now. She's been connecting more even with Randy Carlisle, a lot of other younger artists in Nashville. But, her music always did have this blend of these sort of country elements and these kind of rock elements coming together. So it's exciting to see her on the ballot and really representing an artist who brings all of those different pieces together.
Absolutely. Unifying force. Iron Maiden, fascinating band for so many reasons. There you go, Jason. First of all, 17 studio albums, 41 albums in total, Jason. But I have to tell you, I was born in Colombia, in Latin America, and very few bands I've seen generate such expectation on their international shows. I'm talking about 100,000 people every time they tour down there in Latin America or in other countries. One of the most prolific live bands of our generation. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're absolutely right. And, you think of things like Iron Maiden, Rock in Rio or some of those things. These giant shows they've done around the world. Their fan base is incredible. In fact, they have been a band even in the Voice Your Choice kiosk we have here in the museum, where before we get to this today, the nominations, bands can say, who would they want to see nominated the next year? And for the last several years, Iron Maiden has been towards the top of that list every year. They've been in the top 3 of that list for like 3 out of the last 5 years. And again, what an incredible career. Thinking about their early days, almost sounding like a mixture of punk and hard rock, then really developing, along with bands like Judas Priest and Motorhead. Iron Maiden was a key piece of developing heavy metal. And then you get into the period I really love, where you get albums even like Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, where they're experimenting with prog rock elements in it, and concept albums. They weren't afraid to use synthesizers on some of their records and push to different sounds. and they're still going. They still sound amazing.
Right.
And I think it's been, great. As you mentioned, we were both at the LA inductions this past year, and man, Judas Priest brought the house down that
The
night.
house down.
Oh, such a good set they put in. And I'm excited. Personally, Iron Maiden's towards the top of my list. I'm really hopeful that this might be the year. This is, I think, the third time they've been nominated. So it'll be exciting to see them on here.
I agree. And I think, just quick pivot to Judas Priest and this kind of rock and roll, with the Rock Hall, we saw them with Jolene, with Dolly Parton, Judas Priest and everything, how, all these things, these genres, these sounds just are connected to this type of heavy metal in so many ways, right?
Yeah, I think, that was a good example last year, not to keep coming back to last year's induction, but as you said, like, you're still unpacking. It's not that long ago. It only happened.
Right. I know.
But you saw bands like Duran Duran and the Eurythmics, which are more new wave, and Dolly Parton and Lionel Richie and Judas Priest, and they were all getting along with each other, talking with each other backstage about each other's music and how much they appreciated being part of this group. Pat Benatar, who just blew people away with her voice that night. And I think, again, that's the exciting thing, where a lot of these artists do connect with each other and cross over. So
absolutely. Well, Jason, I know you got a busy day. Let me ask you about one more. Rage Against the Machine. I mean, known for their heavy metal and rap music with punk and funk influences, obviously, incredible band. They've been nominated, I think, 4 times already. I think
this is 5.
This is 5.
Yeah.
So just for my audience, we talked about this last year. There's no limit here. This is not like the Baseball Hall of Fame or anything like that. What is the record? Before we get into them real quick, Jason, what is the record? Like, who's the band that's been nominated the most and hasn't gotten in?
I think the one that was nominated the most and hasn't gotten in, I'm not 100% sure, Jamie, but I think it's Chic.
Okay.
And eventually, Nile Rodgers ended up getting inducted, both for his work in Chic and as a producer. But technically, the band Chic is still not in. And I think they took that. The longest run before that without getting inducted was Black Sabbath. It took them about 12 nominations or something to get in. I think also this is the interesting thing about the voting process, as much as it is about the band. Rage Against the Machine is awesome. I'm a massive fan of Rage Against the Machine. But even on this year's ballot, if you're a fan of a bunch of these different styles that we've been talking about, it makes it hard to vote, right? Because you're like, I want to pick a band in this, I want to pick a band in that. So you do have other bands like Soundgarden on here. You've got Iron Maiden, and you've got Rage Against the Machine. Now, hopefully, voters will look at that kind of uniqueness of Rage Against the Machine, and they keep getting put up against these ballots of other great artists. So you never know. Each year, it depends who's on there and who the voting body is going to head towards. But you can't discount the impact Rage Against the Machine had. Their sound mixes together so many different things, from hip hop elements, even in the way Tom Morello plays guitar, to the kind of, Zach De La Rocha vocals that mix up hip hop and rock and heavy metal. Just the incredible sound of the band, so heavy, used in so many different films and movies throughout the 90s and 2000s. So I'm really hopeful that, this might be the year for Rage Against the Machine. But as you said, no limit. If they don't make it, if any of these artists don't make it this year, they can end up right back on the ballot next year again.
Absolutely. As is Kate Bush, and I'm hoping she makes it. Jason, thank you so much. Are you going to come to Nashville for the Ryman event?
I am. In fact, Jamie, hopefully I'll see you down there, and let your listeners know we've got a great show on March 1st of this year, 2023, called Rock the Ryman. It's part of that great collaboration we've done with them. And we're excited to be down in Nashville and putting on a great show at the Mother Church.
The Mother Church. I know our friends, the Warren Treaty, are stoked to play it. Everyone's
really
excited.
Man, I'm so excited to have them on the
show. But we'll have to connect, off the record and get you, get together for lunch or something. But Jason,
yeah, absolutely, man.
Thank you so much for your great energy, for your great state always, for your smile, for your passion that is infectious to us, all of us. Jason, have a great day. Get some coffee and all that good stuff, man. Take care, my brother.
You got it. Thanks, Jamie.